I have an appointment with destiny. I'm heading to Arizona and the small town of Peach City. My mother called it El Diablo. She swore she would never return. It's one of the few promises she kept before she died. I have a score to settle because of the man who destroyed my mother's life. I put it off long enough. I'm going there to kill him. My mom lived in fear every minute of every day, even though she escaped to the other side of the country. For as long as I can remember, I've dreamed of killing Frank Tyson. The only fear I've ever carried is the thought that someone got to him first. My mother crossed the Arizona-Mexico border as a child. Several people in her group died making the journey, including one of her aunts. She said they spent days in the back of a van with the sun beating down on the metal and turning the interior into a hot tin can. No ventilation and very little air with temperatures over 100 degrees. They had warm water, which is the only thing that saved the 8 illegals who made it out alive. My grandparents survived the crossing, lived a few more years, then died long before I was born. My mother had no one. She was here in the United States illegally and worked multiple low-paying jobs to stay off the street. She met Frank Tyson when he pulled up on his motorcycle where she was emptying trash from one of the homes she cleaned. He asked her if she wanted a ride. I can only imagine how my mother looked at that age. I've been called beautiful, large brown eyes with the corners pulled down slightly, long dark hair and olive skin give me an exotic look. My mother was proud of her Zalto Maya origin. They are strong and resilient people, she often told me. The Mexican government forced her family, along with the community, from their homes in the rainforest in 1971. My mother was 6 years old and remembers relatives, especially the young children, starving to death after the evacuation. Coming to the United States was a blessing for those who survived the crossing. She didn't take the ride on Frank's bike that day, but he was persistent, and within a few weeks he won her over. In just a few months, he had her addicted to drugs and prostituted her out to his friends and associates. My mother cried the first time she told me the story. I just wanted to beat the shit out of someone. Yes, Frank was my first choice, but anyone would do. My mother was high as a kite and most likely never remembered telling me about my father that first time. I was 7 years old. Through the years, always when she was high, she'd tell me more. Frank nearly killed her twice when he discovered she was pregnant. Both times she lost the baby. When she was used up and old beyond her years, Frank's friends lost interest. To remain in his environment, she crawled on her hands and knees to serve Frank so he would keep her supplied with drugs. She did this until she discovered she was pregnant again, with me. The only child she was sure was Frank's. She hid the pregnancy and managed to escape before I was born. An advocacy center took her in and helped her get off drugs. When I was a year old, a woman who helped my mother stay clean was caring for me when Frank caught my mother leaving a store. He beat her so badly she almost died and was hospitalized for weeks. He did it in plain sight of the public, in the parking lot where he discovered her. No one stopped him.